I'm 63 years old now, and I think this barn is a little older than that. I also think it's fair to say that we both have lived through some pretty major changes. This building was put up to shelter livestock. When my dad sold his place in Glide and moved closer to town, there were mangers and milking stanchions and pitchforks and everything else that accumulates wherever animals live. He bought it for a place to park and work on his log trucks and logging equipment. I used it as a home base for my general contracting and fabricating business when we were done logging, and then converted it into a blacksmith shop. Most recently, we make videos and movies here and teach grandkids some things that we hope will help them in their lives. All of these efforts, all of this work, leaves its mark, and its tools, and its trash to be dealt with, doesn't it? We decide over and over again what is to be kept and stored and hopefully used someday, and what is to be simply hauled away or maybe even burned. How do we decide what to keep and what to throw away in our lives anyhow? How can we recognize a little sooner when something from our past might really help us again someday, or if it's already done its work, if it's already outlived its usefulness, and it just needs to be forgotten? And worst yet, how do we recognize when it's holding us back, or wasting our energy, or maybe even, displacing better things, thwarting our happiness?
I drilled all these on the drill press at 5/16, thinking I would drive in the number 3 bar, but there's no reason to do that. All I'm going to be doing is trying to split this top board off this glue lamp. So I'll just ream them out to 3/8 of an inch and it'll go in with no muss, no fuss. Whew. Almost bit off more than I could chew on that. One of the hazards of working alone, right? I don't know how many pounds of tools I'll hang up here, but I really doubt that it'll ever have to hold more than 200 pounds on this side. It feels pretty good. So this was all precipitated by the fact that electrical panel's going in, and there's an old conduit that's running back behind this wall full of old gear that'll never pass inspection. One of the realities of electrical retrofitting around here is the inspector has to decide how much of the existing electrical system to make you replace since you've touched the system. I think that the rule is if you haven't touched it with your hands, he can't say anything about it on that inspection. But this conduit, which runs the pump in the creek, was touched by our hands when we pulled out the old panel, so it needs to be made compliant. So it's given me a reason to clean out this corner, reclaim some of this real estate, and put a pretty good looking rack up here if I do say so myself. threatening for years to move this fabricating table a foot towards the wood shop, a foot towards the outside wall, just to kind of reapportion the space. I had forgotten just how much junk I had sort of stored under there or allowed to accumulate. It looks good to finally be able to see the concrete. Dustin did a nice job when he finished it. One of the hazards that I uncovered is that I've been given by my friend Rance, who runs Nordic Veneer, which is a peeler plant, clipper blades and planer blades. And he brought them because he knows that I make knives, and he thought that this material, which is probably, I don't know what it is, it's a mystery metal, maybe it's D2, I don't know, it's just really good steel, could be used. And I've kept these things stored under my bench for a long time, and the problem is they're sharp. They're sharp on both edges. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a sharp piece of steel. And then this big thing, I don't know if it's a clipper blade or a planer blade or what, but it's really heavy and it's really sharp. And so I've got to blunt the edges of this or weld a guard on or something. I probably should just recycle it. I don't know that I'll ever use it, but someday we may make a sword out of a planer blade. In the meantime, I've got to store them safely. And in the meantime, I'm going to move this table. So now that I've got the floor kind of cleared out, let's see if I can get this attached to the 6x6s that it's resting on, and then up in the air, and perhaps like the Egyptians did it, we'll put it on some rollers and just roll this thing a foot in both directions until we get it where we like it. So one of the tricks to doing this with rollers is estimating where the rollers are going to be when your moving load comes off the back roller and when you need to put the front roller back onto it. Let's see if we're going to get this right or wrong. Yeah, I think I'm going to set it down there. I've got clearance all the way around. Plenty of room for working at both benches there. Plenty of room for getting through the door. We'll settle it down and see what it's like to live with. So in the same way that raising the second end up when it's up on rollers is the tricky part, letting the first end down is hard when it's up on rollers. So let's see if I can make this thing go straight down, and then the other end will be easier. Another thing that I always procrastinate is making a big change in my work environment or routine, even though I know it's going to be a good thing, even though I know it's going to be profitable, but it doesn't seem imperative in the moment. It's crazy, but my reaction once I finally carve out the time to do it and get the change made is always the same. Why, oh why, didn't I do this years ago? And then that thought
is usually accompanied by a curious, low-level regret. I wonder if I'm ever really going to learn this lesson. Thank you for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.